to Sometimes There's Side-Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy.
And we have a special guest this week, and we're very excited to have her. This week, we have Christy Cole, who is the executive director and board president at Desert Harbor Doberman Rescue of Arizona, which I'm sure we'll call DHDR to make life easy. So welcome, Christy.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun to be here.
We are thrilled to have you. And so everyone knows this is Christy's first time on a podcast, which we're so excited. I believe that Christy and I actually met, and I couldn't say how many years ago. Was Tiago a puppy?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's probably about 6 years ago at a barn hunt competition. So dog sports brings people together, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome to get to meet you and realize that we had so much in common.
Yeah. And then, of course, we connected on socials and just totally aligned.
Yes. And that's how the world goes nowadays.
And this is my first time meeting Christy, so I'm super excited to meet you. And I've heard so many good things about you and the rescue you run and all the good work you're doing. So I'm excited you're on the show with us.
Thank you. Feeling is likewise.
Yes. I know everybody, we have a Christy and a Christy, but hopefully you've listened before, so you know our Christy McNeely's voice and you'll be able to follow along. Christy, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe if you're fostering anybody currently or what your dog status is?
Yeah, so I think you covered what my role is. I'm also a certified professional dog trainer, and I spend most of my days working a day job, so do consulting and marketing, but most of my time is spent doing dog stuff, getting out, hiking, adventuring. So that's really me in a nutshell. I don't have any dogs at my house right now. It's so quiet. I'm on a little foster break. We had a rescue up in Northern California, and the woman died, and she left behind 35 dogs. So it's sad. So I've been working double duty on that, partnering up with her son and another rescue up there to try and get all 35 of those dogs placed and moved. So no fostering at the moment while I focus on that.
Yeah, wow, that's a huge undertaking. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and I saw you post that and I shared it on my page. They have so many all ages and so many cute dogs available through them right now.
We're down to 7, so we're almost there.
Wow.
Okay,
that's a
so
lot of work.
If anybody's listening and they're thinking about fostering, hey, DHDR has some Dobermans that they're looking to have come into foster. So that's awesome.
Yep.
So you're taking a break from fostering. Makes sense. That's a huge undertaking to go. And how far away is the area where these dogs are?
They're pretty far. They're up in Northern California.
Wow.
So they're actually closer to Oregon than anywhere else.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. So definitely not just a little day trip.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you personally become involved in rescue? Did you start with another group or did you just kind of fall into where you are? How did this start?
A little bit of both. So about 15 years ago, I was married. I was young. I was married. I bought a Doberman puppy from a backyard breeder. I had no clue what I was doing. A month later, got divorced. And I had this terrible little puppy. It was so hard. She was horrible. I didn't know what to do with her. And so I just dove in and I researched, I took classes, I networked with as many people as I could. And that led me to the world of rescue. And I had no idea there was a Doberman rescue. I didn't know that much about Dobermans, honestly. And I started volunteering, and it was a really hard time in my life. And it sounds so cheesy. Some people have heard this story before, and every time I tell it, it just sounds so cheesy, but
we love cheese.
It really unlocked a piece of me that, I was like missing. I finally felt like I found a purpose in life. I just became so much more independent and confident as an individual. I felt like I became happier and more complete as a person. And I guess from that point, it was kind of like an addiction. So that's how I got into rescue and volunteering.
Wow.
That does not sound cheesy at all to me. Like that sounds, I feel like when you're able to like give back to other people, you find your passion and you find a sense of accomplishment. And so it makes sense that it would make you feel more complete, that you found your people and your place.
It sounds
Yeah.
inspirational.
Yes.
If I go too deep on it, I start to think, what is behind altruism? Is it selfish? Is it, it's like, are we altruistic because it just makes us feel better? That's a different podcast.
We could probably have you back and talk about that and
Yes.
just go down like a philosophy, rabbit hole that would
Go
last
down the
forever.
rabbit hole.
But I completely understand what you're talking about.
And if you don't mind me asking, Christy, you said that you didn't know much about Dobermans. What made you decide to get a Doberman puppy?
The person I had married grew up with Dobermans.
Ah.
And I always thought they looked cool and seemed like fun dogs. And I grew up with dogs. I grew up with labs. So we just got a Doberman and then had to figure it out on my own.
And so this Doberman stayed with you though, even though he was the one who, okay.
She was terrible, but I loved her.
I was going to say she was gone before me. I mean, before I met you. What was her name?
Her name was Millie.
Millie. Okay.
Yep.
And Millie forced you to learn.
Yes, she forced me to learn. I messed her up. Like I can look back and say I was a part of you turning out to have some problems. I mean, she had every problem you could potentially have, and part of it was genetics and part of it was me not knowing what I was doing. She, I took her to dog parks. I used overly aversive training like way too early or at all. She had separation anxiety. She was dog reactive. She was leash reactive. She had hot spots from her anxiety. And then she had physical stuff like von Willebrand's DCM, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later. Wobblers, everything. She had everything, but I wanted to treat all of it. And so I just loved her so much, even though she was just this like awful ball of problems. So that's how I learned about Dobermans. It was a crash course.
It reminds me of my first Rottweiler, Link. Similar story from a backyard breeder, genetic and temperamental nightmare. Didn't have a lot of physical issues, but did pass away at 6 from cancer. And I feel like it's the story of all dog trainers, right? You had this hard dog and it forced you down this path. But at the same time, there's so much gratitude to that dog because it sent us down this path that we may never have seen in our lives. And that's something that we can't repay them for.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just absolutely grateful to her for everything I learned. And like you said, she put me on a totally different path. And then Ronan came into our lives. Ronan. A lot of people know Ronan, but he was the polar opposite. He was perfect in every way, shape, form. He was, fun, athletic, smart, loyal. He was great with other dogs, great with people. He was even great with her, even though she didn't really normally like other dogs. So he was the flip side of the coin and was just perfect. Did
Ro come through DHDR or how did he come to you?
No, that's a long story.
Okay.
We could do yet another podcast. I had met his owner at a dog park and long story from there, but he did not come through DHDR.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Christy, you would have loved Ro. I mean, honestly, he was very similar to Tiago. Stable, in for it, loved his people, just a really, really stellar dog.
And no worry on meeting your dog's friends at a dog park. Lucy, like one of my best friends, we're still in touch. She moved to Washington like 7 years ago, and we're still in touch because our dogs were friends at the dog park.
Yeah.
I don't go to the dog park with Lucy anymore, but hey, it served its purpose back in the day.
I don't endorse it. It definitely messed up Millie, but there ended up being some good out of it.
Live and learn for sure.
Yes.
That's awesome. You kind of fell forward into the rescue world and immersed yourself. So then at what point did you get to DHDR, or how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, so all of that volunteering was with DHDR. I found them in that process. They were founded in 2009. I don't even know what year it is anymore. So
No,
do the
doesn't
math.
matter.
They were founded by Sydney Oliver and Catherine Meschner, and I met them like 3 years after they found it in 2011. And eventually, you know, lots of stuff in between there, but eventually took over the rescue. Sadly, Sydney passed away of COVID a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, but Catherine is still on the board, and she actually writes handwritten thank you notes to every single donor that donate, no matter how much you donate, $5, $5,000. So she's amazing, and she's still here on the board.
that's
I love that.
amazing. So at what point did you become president? Do you know what year that was?
Oh, that's a good question.
A long time.
Yeah, I think I was probably a couple years after I met them. So probably
Okay.
2013 or something around there. It's been about 10 years, a little bit under 10 years.
Okay. Tell us some details about DHDR. Are you foster based? Do you have a facility? How do you choose dogs? All that kind of stuff. Just kind of give us a little, because a lot of listeners might not be aware of the rescue. So we want to make sure that they understand what kind of setup you have.
Yeah, so we're 100% foster based, 100% volunteer based, so 0 staff. We have about 150 volunteers and about 20 active foster homes. As you guys know, that's a cycle. People foster fail, or they, you know, burn out, and then new people replace them. But
Yes.
at any given time, we have about 20 foster homes. Our team, our volunteers, they're just incredible. I think we're the luckiest group. We have really amazing fosters and volunteers, and we're able to take in around 100 Dobermans per year. We don't really use boarding unless it's a pinch. We're in a pinch. Dobermans don't do that well in boarding.
Yeah.
We're primarily foster
Okay.
based.
And how do you decide which dogs that you're able to take? Do you have behavior guidelines? Do you have age guidelines? Any sort of guidelines?
Yeah, I mean, we love seniors, so we have no age guidelines, but
Yes.
in the early days, most of our rescues came from shelters. So we spent a lot of time down at county. Over time, as the awareness of the rescue increased, we started seeing more owner surrender requests. There's also been, here in Arizona, there's been an ebb and flow over the past 10 years of the policies and the procedures of particularly the Maricopa shelter system. And so without getting into that, things have ebbed and flowed on how often we've pulled or haven't pulled from shelters. So we actually do a lot with owner surrenders right now. And we kind of see that as taking as many dogs as we can before they go into the shelter, before they go into county. So we have people fill out a surrender form, and then we post it to an internal volunteer system that we have. And if one of our fosters is interested, we always want to be sure they're picking, you know, we're not telling them who to foster. We do a behavior intake evaluation, and we usually intake at the exact same time. And our evaluators are either professional trainers, so certified, or they're volunteers who've gone through Sam Freeman's course. It's about 8 weeks. And then they shadow someone for a year or 2. So we have pretty experienced people doing these evaluations. Assessments are, you know, assessments are just assessments.
Yes.
They are what they are. We don't, you know, we recognize that, but also very helpful for us to ensure that we are not taking in dogs that are dangerous. And we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like, what our behavior guidelines are. But I would say in terms of intake, we have a soft spot for seniors. We love taking medical cases. We have really good supporters who help us fundraise. I also love to take in litters, not because puppies are fun, because they're actually really horribly hard.
Puppies are a lot of work, but it's my business.
I think we have so much ability to impact how they're raised.
Yes.
Not only like while they're in our care, but the requirements we have of our adopters. And that's, you know, as you guys know, so critical in those critical weeks. And so I get really excited when we get litters because of the impact we can have on their lives.
Yeah.
And I believe that I've seen that you do have an adopter wait list at this point. Maybe that's for puppies.
A little bit of both. So we
Okay.
definitely have a puppy waiting list. In terms of our adoption process, we process about 500 applications every year. Our team does. We only bring in about 100 dogs per year. Certain people want certain things, right? And we don't shame people for that. Like if something's right for your lifestyle, we want to know about it because we want to match you with the right dog. We don't believe that you should just suck it up and take a rescue. because that's what rescue is. You know, if you are really not confident in your ability to handle separation anxiety, or you work in an office every day, then we don't want to give you a dog with separation anxiety.
Mhm.
So the people who end up waiting are the people who are looking for something specific and
Yeah.
something really in demand, like the crop docked female who gets along with dogs, cats, kids. You will wait a long time for one of those. And then there's people who adopt the day after they get through the process because they're looking for a dog that maybe is less desirable.
Yeah. Or maybe they just don't have as strict requirements. Maybe they don't have children, they don't have other pets, whatever. So it makes it easier to place a dog with them because they just don't have specifics. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And
when you're looking for like a crusty old man dog, like it's easy. Sign me up.
got a ton of them.
Yeah, we have a lot of adopters who are like, I want a senior. I want a really old senior. I'm like, I'm out of seniors. Everyone wants a senior.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love that though.
I love that.
Hooray. I also know that you guys do a lot of cross posting. So yes, you're not pulling from the shelters, but you are trying to help people be more aware. Hey, maybe you're on the waiting list for us, but there are dogs available in shelters that we've seen, and maybe you should go check them out too. So it's a little cross marketing, I would say.
Yeah, and we have this page on our site. We are not here to force everyone through us. Because we recognize that our process may not be the fit for some people. And so we're really trying to say, here are all the ethical, the good places to get Dobermans. And so we have this page that says, like, here are local Doberman rescues in neighboring states. Here are all the shelters that have Dobermans every day. Here's how to pick a good breeder. Once you apply with us, you're in our network, and we're here to help you find a dog, whether it's through us or whether it's some other way. So a lot of people who apply with us, they end up finding a match because we cross-posted before they even end up finding a dog with us. And we're very happy that that happens.
Yeah. I love that.
I do too.
See, Christy, I told you Christy was our people.
I know. Yeah. I love everything that you're saying. Like everything.
Christy's just up there. Yes.
Yes.
Next up, Christy signs up to foster for DHDR.
That was my whole intent in doing this.
Seriously, she is a bomb foster. I'm telling you.
We're taking a break for Lucy's health issues, but let me tell you, I was keyboarding. I can do a foster when I saw all those dogs coming through. I was like, no, Christy, take a break. Yep. You committed to taking a break.
Yes.
Christy, do you know that Christy's Lucy was the first adult dog that Tiago met as a puppy?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That must be great.
6 years ago yesterday.
Yes. And he just kept her head in his mouth the whole time. And she loved it.
And they've been best friends ever since.
Yes. Love story.
Yeah.
When we go back to, you had mentioned about your guidelines for behavior.
Yeah.
Do you mind kind of going over what some of those guidelines are for your intake with?
Yeah, absolutely. This is really important to us. So specific to the dogs themselves, we don't take in any dogs that are dangerous to people or other dogs, period.
Okay.
Like we talked about, assessments are just assessments. They typically help us suss that out, but we know that sometimes it also means that we might take a dog in and find out later that the dog is not safe for people or other dogs. And there's a difference between dog reactivity and like true dog aggression. I'll kill
for sure.
Thing. So if we had a dog like that in our rescue, we would not adopt that dog out. I think we owe it to our fosters and our adopters to keep them safe. And we also owe it to the Doberman breed to not perpetuate this incorrect myth by putting dangerous dogs out there. So we take that really seriously, and we have our whole system set up to be able to make sure that we hit the mark on that as much as we can. Around that, we do a ton of training for our volunteers. We do regular classes. We use Trainual, which is an online training tool where we have different modules and online classes. Like all the things are important to me: basic handling, body language, behavior, the humane hierarchy, dispelling dominance myths. Because we also don't want to put dogs in a position where the worst side of them comes out, right? So it's important for us to do our part too, but we do a ton of education, and we're super dedicated to keeping people safe.
That's amazing. So you really set up your volunteers and your fosters too, and give them a ton of tools.
Yeah, as much as we can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm just like sitting here in awe, like, yes, all of that. Yes.
Yeah.
I literally wanted to go preach. Like, I don't
And we want
because
to share it.
Amazing.
We want
yeah.
to share it. So if there's other rescues who want to do stuff different or do more of that, none of our materials are, proprietary. Anything we write, anything we put together, we're happy to share. So other
Wow.
rescues, come talk to us. Happy to help.
That's a pretty incredible offering, because I
really
know the kind of work that it takes to have a program dedicated like that for your volunteers and your fosters. So that's pretty amazing. But I also get that it's like the educational aspect too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel you so deeply on making sure that you're not perpetuating myths. I mean, you're sitting here talking to a pit bull owner in Christy, a former pit bull owner in me, and then a Rottweiler owner. I just really resonate with that, because we want people to know the breed the way we know the breeds. And that is not these, dogs with hair triggers that are aggressive and all of this stuff. Dogs that are true to their actual nature and what they're meant to be. So I really love that as well.
Yeah, it's so true.
Mm-hmm. Are you good, Christy?
Yes, I'm
That
good.
was
You can ask your question now.
that was awesome. I love that. It was amazing. Okay, so how has DHDR changed since you've kind of been involved? The world has changed. So
yeah, I think from a basic boring perspective, like we've modernized a lot. So all our forms are online. We've evolved our policies quite a bit. We've put a lot more of like a professional wrapper around our operations. We use Salesforce Nonprofit, which is incredible. And I won't get into all of that. It's very, very boring probably, but super cool, and amazing volunteers who have given us all this free work. And I think we've also created deeper partnerships within the community, and obviously expanded our education. I'm just like barfing out all the things.
no, barf away.
I love it.
From a medical perspective, we take on a lot of medical cases now, and we have a medical director who's just incredible. We can do so much more with her expertise and her connections, especially in this environment of a vet shortage that I think we're still in. So I know that other rescues who don't have someone like that have a bigger challenge, just even getting dogs spayed or neutered. So that has been an incredible evolution. But I think probably the biggest change that I've seen is that we're not, I would say you can just call it 50-50 for ease of conversation. 50% about actually physically rescuing and adopting out dogs. And like 50% of our energy and effort goes into creating educational materials and solving what I like to call the core issue. So why are Dobermans ending up in shelters? Mm-hmm. First and foremost, backyard breeders.
Yes.
If every Doberman came from an ethical breeder, by definition, because ethical breeders take back their dogs, there would literally be no Doberman rescue needed. So there's a lot of education around that. And then the second thing is behavior. A lot of that comes down to the backyard breeder as well, whether it be genetics or puppy raising in those, or even gestation. In these key weeks, right? So,
yeah, we can get really nerdy about that. Yes.
So like a ton of education in the community and outreach around backyard breeders. And I think the other piece of that is, it's funny, it links it back to how we kicked off today, which is dog sports. And it seems like a weird connection, but for anyone who owns a working breed, they know that they need to work. Yes. And behavior problems can pop up if they're not working. And dog sports, again, another podcast, can be very intimidating, expensive, scary. And they don't have to be, because it's really just a bunch of nice people for the most part getting together. So we've created this Doberman Sports program where we try to work with trainers. A little plug here. If you're a trainer listening and you want to be a part of it, let me know. To do like intro classes that are either free or really cheap. It's just Dobermans only. And so it's a lot less pressure. And then we hope that people will get hooked on Doberman sports and not surrender their dogs because their dogs are happy and
healthy and fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sports are you guys doing?
So
is it just kind of a gamut of everything, or?
It's anything that we feel like is safe.
I know scent work for sure.
Yeah. Scent work is like my jam. Barn hunt. It's so hard because
it's
so
tough.
hard to find anyone who does barn hunt, but I love it.
Just for the listeners, just if I can interject, in the state of Arizona, we only have one barn hunt club at this point. So it's really difficult sport.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Heather drives.
I drive an hour and 20 minutes one way.
Yeah. One way.
So far.
Yeah.
To go to the one place.
And if you're practicing, then you're going on Wednesday night for that drive, and then you're going to trial that weekend. And either you're staying in Coolidge, which has basically one nice hotel. And
Coolidge knows.
And or you're driving back and forth. But it's tough. It's really tough. And it's a really enjoyable sport. And I think it's a great sport for Dobermans.
Yeah, it is. So anyone out there, you have rats, you have hay, call us. We'll help you set up a barn hunt club.
We'll teach you all about barn hunt and all the ins and outs of it. I love it.
I feel like maybe I can just get some hay. I'm willing to keep some rats. I think rats are cool. If you guys want to come to my backyard.
I know. I have 2 people now. Christy and my friend Kelly are willing to keep rats. So now we just have to put it together.
Yes, do it.
Oh my. Yeah, so scent work and barn hunt for sure. Do you guys do dock diving? Of course. Yes.
Agility.
Lure coursing? Fast cat.
We've done a little lure coursing. We've had some broken toes.
Yeah. That's why I was like, probably fast cat more than lure coursing.
Yeah. We haven't done lure coursing in a couple of years because it's so fun. Ronan loved lure coursing, but I'm like,
did he?
Oh.
Yeah. Just tough on the cruciates too.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I missed. Tricks.
Yeah.
I put in the sport category, I think. And I love tricks because you can do it at home. And AKC must still have the online.
They're keeping it. They're keeping it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those are so fun and just so good. So those are the ones I can think of right now.
Okay.
My Lucy is trick certified. And I will say when she was younger, our life was very structured to keep peace inside my home between her and I. And so like everything was structured, but then we would have these like really fun times of just doing tricks and learning tricks. And that was our fun time. And that is honestly, trick training is how we bonded.
And then she met me, and then I was like, you already know all these tricks. Put a title on your pit bull, please. And then
I was like,
did.
What is this?
Yeah. It was a good evolution.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the Dober sports. I think that's awesome because obviously I own a working breed. And yes, if your dogs want to work, I mean, look, there's outliers. We have Rottweilers who are sacks, but majority of them want to do something. And so I love that that's a way you support and educate your community. What would you say is the biggest challenges that you see? I would say in DHDR, rescue, Dobermans in general, however you kind of want to put that together.
I think with rescue, there's the basic issues, right? And we can write them off as basic, but they are huge day-to-day problems like lack of fosters, too many dogs in need, the vet shortage, interpersonal challenges. Those are, I don't mean to write them off because they all are significant issues. I would say that what resonates most with me lately, the biggest challenge in rescue is all the behavior dogs that are not safe enough to adopt out. Yes. Like where they all go. I can put on my hat and say, I have this firm policy and I can hold true to it. But at the end of the day, it just like eats away at me that every day I'm rejecting 5 dogs, 5 dogs. Where are they going? People are trapped. Rescues are tapped. So then people are trapped and it's heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And I just get super down sometimes when we can't help. But I usually rally myself back up by like being like, okay, what's the core issue? schedule another class or put another piece out to stop people from going to backyard breeders. And I think that's why I get just I just get like this fire when I see people going to backyard breeders or non-ethical breeders, because I'm just like, you're just degrading all the work we're doing. This dog is going to end up like this in 2 years, and you're going to come running for help, and there's not going to be anything I can do because it's going to be too late. So it stresses me out if you can't tell.
It's like a never-ending cycle.
It is. But it sounds like you're seeing more of that now than you have in the past. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say, and sometimes I question, you guys may know Lisa, who helps run the rescue with me. We question, do we just know more now? And so we notice it more?
Oh, you are
That is a
speaking
tricky
to
question.
us.
Yeah.
We literally, this is where we end up every time. That's really complex. It's
But
true.
yeah, it has felt like we reject a lot more dogs. COVID made things worse.
Yes.
For sure.
No
Yes.
socialization and the demand for puppies. We started to feel like we were making some progress against backyard breeders in Arizona, and then COVID just wiped it all off the map, and it's out of control again. So it is worse.
If you could say anything to backyard breeders, what would it be?
No, but I have an answer to that, and it's nothing.
Yeah.
Because I've met so many of them, and 90% of the time it's a lack of education or ignorance. Like, they're not mean people, but based on their life experiences and why they're doing this, I'm never going to get them to change.
Yep.
And so I have to focus on the demand and not the breeders, because we're not changing their mind.
It's interesting you say that, because I just finished an online course on how to find an ethical breeder that I'm going to be putting out. And one of the things I say in there is, I don't think anyone is breeding puppies with malicious intent. I don't think the average person.
Okay,
There's
yes.
some people,
There we go.
but I don't think on average someone is like, ooh, let me produce like biggest mess of a puppy when it comes to behavior and health that I can think of, and how can I make that happen? I do think it is a huge lack of education, and then it's cultural. Hey, their parents bred Dobermans, so now they're doing it. And there's the financial standpoint, there's the resource standpoint. I mean, it's a really, really, hate to say it, but complex issue that is so big.
Yeah. In 10 years, I've met one backyard breeder, and it was the worst one I've ever met, who I felt like was truly evil, like scheming to take dogs off Craigslist, and just this awful, evil person. The rest of the people, they didn't know better. And they just didn't know better, and they weren't going to hear it for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's
And
really
I like
difficult.
that you address it as, okay, well, they're doing their thing, but what we can do, what we have the power over, is the demand side, and educating the purchasers and making sure that adoption's an option, ethical breeding is an option that people know about.
Yep.
Really, those are the options.
Right. Yeah.
And we're not sitting here in judgment of anyone, because Christy, you and I both bought dogs, our first dogs of our beloved breeds, from backyard breeders. We've evolved and educated ourselves and come to the point we are now. So I do understand that everybody starts somewhere. Absolutely. But I also understand having this fire to educate and help people understand why it's important. Yeah.
And I want to take your class that you put together, because I think there's simple layers, and then there's really complex layers, like how expensive it is to raise and breed an ethically bred dog, and how that prices certain people out of that, and the politics that exist inside the breeder world. Once you convince people to buy from an ethical breeder, there's a whole new layer of hurdles that they have to get over.
Absolutely.
So there's so much more to unpack there, but I do know that we've just got to get people to stop.
And I think if buyers were more educated than ethical breeders, they would know where to start with ethical breeders too. And the conversation would get more eased on both sides, so that it would be easier for educated buyers and educated breeders to meet in the middle, which is where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And Christy, I know most rescues are not in favor of of ethical breeding.
Or any breeding.
Or any breeding. Well, yeah, you would think ethical breeding, but they're not in favor of breeders in general. That's not something you hear a lot in rescue. What made your rescue decide that you were going to recommend ethical breeders?
I'll start by saying that I love this macro concept of people moving towards adoption. And that came from the adopt, don't shop movement. So I'm not knocking it completely, because so many more dogs would be dying today if we didn't have this cultural shift towards promoting adoption and adoption being cool and people embracing rescue, right? So I love that. But when you really think about it, I love the Doberman breed. I mean, I love all dogs, but I love the Doberman breed. There is one way for the breed I love to survive, and that's ethical breeders. And if, like I said before, if only ethical breeders produced Dobermans, there wouldn't be rescue because they would take other dogs. So I've seen what a well-bred Doberman can be, what a well-raised Doberman can be. And I've seen the pain that people and Dobermans are in when they're not well-bred or raised well. And so that makes the answer super clear for me as a rescue. I run a Doberman rescue, and the answer to all of my problems is ethical breeders, which you just really think about it.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like, you can't even argue. It's true.
Yeah.
So
Which is honestly why I told Heather, I think it's so important to start doing these podcasts on rescue and breeding, because I just kept hearing back from the rescue community that there can't be ethical breeders because breeders aren't ethical. And I was like, if we could just have everybody understand what ethical breeding is, I think we could solve this problem, because like you said, we wouldn't need rescue then, because ethical breeders would be taking back their dogs, and that would put such a huge dent in our shelter populations.
And the other piece about ethical breeders, which we've already talked about, is that they're educating the people who they're giving their dogs to.
Exactly.
So not only are you getting a good dog to start with, you raise it correctly, hopefully, and it has that much better chance to be a dog that you don't need to rehome or dump or
stacking the deck in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And prior to Christy meeting me, she had no idea that there was such a thing as ethical breeders.
Hashtag adopt, don't shop.
Poor woman got a hell of an education when she met me at the frickin' shelter, let me tell you. But honestly, you know what I told her? I said, after many conversations, I was like, you know what? When Tiago comes home, I just want you to come and meet him, because I think you're going to get it. Because she was a behavior person, right? And I knew that if she met her first well-bred puppy, that she would instantly just be all in and totally understand. Tiago did the work for me.
Well, yeah, and it was a paradigm shift. So I kept having to tell Heather, I want to be on board, but I need to sit with this for a while, because it's a big shift. And I was like, I don't know if I'm okay with it. And then I'd be like, I'm on board. Wait, I don't know if I'm okay with this.
But you remained open and asked questions, which was a huge piece of it. The thing that kicked it off was me saying that I had to sign a contract when I purchased Tiago. That was the catalyst to the whole thing.
Yeah. And that started our friendship and a lot of questions on my end.
So I've heard what you hear a lot online is you're breeding them faster than we can save them and all that. So what, from you being in that position, what was it that made you be hesitant to be like, am I okay with this? Was it you? Did you just feel like there were too many dogs that need to be saved, and so no one should be breeding any other dogs? Or
yeah, I think I didn't realize that there were ethical breeders. I don't know why that just hadn't made a connection in my brain. I love the Westminster show. Like, I watch it, but still in my brain, there wasn't like an ethical breeder. Like, I don't know what happened there. There was just like this shortage in my brain about it. And I was volunteering at the shelter. So in Arizona, it's about 700 dogs at one shelter and about 350 at the other. And 350 are in a shelter from like 1978. It's bad. It's depressing. It's hard. And you just see these dogs start losing their minds after months and months, and we can't push them out. And I kept finding really great dogs in the shelter too. I wasn't trying to push off behavior issues. I was like, these are amazing dogs. These are dogs I would have in my home that I would want my friends to own. These are good dogs.
Yeah.
And yet we're putting them to sleep because we're not getting 350 people coming in to adopt dogs. And so I think that was I had actually told Heather, how can you come from the shelter and then talk about a breeder? Like that is tough to me. And also I didn't have, and I still don't have a specific breed that I love.
That's
Like
true
my
too.
dog is a pit bull. I love her. It's not like I'm not committed to one breed. So for me, it was always like, well, there's so many good dogs. Why do you got to commit to one breed? Which I have definitely changed my mind on now too. I do think people should be able to choose the breed they love.
I also think a part of it is when you don't have a specific breed that you're really attached to, like you and I are with the Doberman and the Rottweiler, there isn't that breed club and breed support and breed pride and there's this whole thing that comes along with that. And when you are really attached and love a purebred dog, you see a different support and a different level of responsibility. That's not quite the right word, a different level. Do you know what I'm saying?
Camaraderie.
Like, yes, camaraderie.
Yeah.
And, I would go to the shelter. I went to the shelter and found a senior Rottweiler there that was from who knows where, and contacted a breeder that had been breeding Rottweilers for 40 years and said, are you looking for a senior? And she took him. It wasn't her dog, but breeders, that's where I came from, was breeders stepping up, right, to support their breed in general. And I feel like in the pit bull community, you don't have that same thing. So like Christy was coming from that side as well, being a pit bull owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. And I think I've been in that spot. I used to volunteer at county and I wouldn't even listen to the radio on the way home. I would just drive in silence. Oh man, this is heavy. So I think it's like the short-term picture is also really, when you focus on that, it makes it harder to digest. And then when you are able to think about the bigger picture, then you start to kind of change your mind a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to say
the short term is very dire.
That's true.
Yeah.
Especially here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to say that I lived in two different worlds, my purebred world and then my rescue world. And then I constantly felt like I was split in half. I've gotten over that because I just am who I am at this point, but I felt that way for many, many years where I was split in half. And it's tough.
Yeah. I think we're making a little progress.
I agree.
I get less pushback these days than I used to.
Well, I love hearing that because, and it's like Christy said, like, this is why we want to be talking about this. We don't want to shy away because I do agree with you. If people are doing things ethically, where are the dogs coming from? They're not. They're either getting rehomed from the breeder, or if there is a situation, because I don't want to say that if you go to an ethical breeder, everything's going to be roses, because shit happens. And
it's still a living, breathing organism that
and genetic, I always say genetics are a tricky mistress. Things happen. Tiago is from an ethical breeder. He has a bad elbow with elbow dysplasia. Stuff does absolutely happen, but it's like we say, you are stacking the deck in your favor, and then you're also going to someone who's doing things ethically, and you can feel good about your purchase because your money's not going to fuel this stress on your community.
Yep.
Well, and Christy, what do you think, because Dobermans are your breed of choice, what are some of the challenges you face with that breed specifically?
The clear answer that you probably get first out of anyone's mouth is DCM, dilated cardiomyopathy. It's affecting over half of the breed. I want to say
for people who don't know what that is, what is that?
It's essentially a disease of the heart. You can catch it early through a proBNP blood panel, through regular echoes. So we have this piece, if anyone listening, this great piece, it's like a 5-minute read, but it essentially requires that if you have a Doberman, you really need to be doing this testing, which it's kind of expensive, but that's the biggest problem facing our breed. And it, like you said, even with really good breeders, it's still a significant issue. going back to Heather's stack the deck, it's even more of an issue with backyard breeders because they're not testing, they're not checking, they're just continuing to make it worse. They're breeding dogs with heart issues. And at least ethical breeders are doing everything they can to breed dogs that don't have the indicators that this might happen. It's still happening. It's a big problem for the breed that spans rescue and breeding. So it's something that I think everyone is super focused on. And I'm glad they are, because it's just heartbreaking to own a Doberman and lose them early. And many people do.
Yeah.
But
and just really quick, testing for DCM, if you have breeding partners, is it a cheek swab? Is it an echo? What is it?
responsible breeders typically do a variety of things. So they're doing DNA testing, although, you could go into how that all works and doesn't guarantee anything, but they're definitely doing that. All of their dogs are echoed and holtered.
Okay.
And I don't want to speak for breeders about the pro BNP. I love the concept of a pro BNP blood panel from birth to, forever. It's just a good subtle indicator and it's super easy. You just add it on to any old blood panel. But breeders are essentially testing all of their dogs for these things regularly. So they'll say, like clear Holter, clear Echo, and then they'll talk about what the genetics look like and breed dogs that don't have any issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So DCM is this clear issue, and I would agree it's the number one issue challenging our breed. Something that pops up for me as well, that's obviously not as dire, but is important to me. And I don't want to dive into the whole training debate, but I think the Doberman world needs to be more up to date on the latest science and approaches to behavior and training.
Word.
I think I see the overuse of aversives, and I think it just comes from a history of those tools or methods being used by a lot of trainers on Dobermans and feeling like Dobermans are tough, Dobermans can handle it. Dobermans are smart and they're not just like easy. So sometimes I think those training methods have been really popular in the past, and it's a delicate thing to broach because I don't want to alienate people from a rescue perspective altogether. But I also think that if I had one wish for the breed, it would be that breed enthusiasts really come to understand the humane hierarchy and move towards that direction in the future.
There's so many things that are right in line with Dobermans and Rottweilers. I completely agree with you. And I think it also goes back to people like really enjoying their dog and their relationship with their dog. And we want that for everybody. And if we're updating our training methods to current knowledge, then I think that increases that.
Yeah, totally does. It's not as quick always, but it provides real results and a wonderful relationship with your dog. So,
So if someone decides that they want to start a rescue, do you have advice that you would give to them?
I think the organized side of me wants to give you a whole business plan and okay, let's meet, let's put it all together, because there's so many pieces, there's so much to do. But I won't do that to you all. I guess but seriously, reach out to me. I love, a lot of work has gone into a lot of our documents, our processes, our approaches. So I just want to share it. I would love to share it. So reach out to me, reach out to other people who you respect who might be running rescues. I think you have to define your mission and what you want your rescue to be and what kind of tenets, values you're going to operate under. I think you can't just be a dog lover. You have to love people too. And you have to love working with people. And, I'm an introvert. I don't want to necessarily talk to people all day, but at the end of the day, that's 50% of who we're helping. And so if you just love to go into the shelter and you just want to save all the dogs, and it's not going to be great. You need to want to do both. And you also have to be prepared to do all the hard stuff, all the business stuff. And I think you need to be a constant learner. A lot of the stuff we're talking about today, all of it, I didn't know the day I bought Millie, right? The day I got involved in rescue, didn't know any of this. It's our responsibility as rescuers if we are creating a 501c3 and the public is putting trust in us, dogs are putting their trust in us, it is our responsibility to learn about dog behavior, learn about enrichment, learn about the best ways to do things so that we do it right and we don't actually do more damage than good.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's amazing. Yeah, that is solid advice
It is solid advice. It
on
absolutely
every
is.
front.
Don't be
Uh,
embarrassed because I've been wrong 1,000 times. And
yeah,
you've learned.
you're
Yeah.
gonna get it wrong sometimes. I mean, seriously, how do you learn?
Yeah, we're human, so it happens. We're gonna get it wrong, but I love that you balance the love of dogs, but also the love of human beings too, and doing right by both at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because without people, there are no owners for dogs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we have people who are listening that are not familiar with DHDR, I mean, I know fostering, so I'm going to tell everybody. She's going to say fostering and then go back and listen to our fostering episode because it will give you all the information that you need. But if somebody's listening and they're like, I really want to help, I really think DHDR sounds amazing. What is a short list of things that people can do to help you guys out?
Oh, I can't say foster.
You can say it because it's a big one.
It is.
No, but seriously, since we do a lot of stuff virtually, like our phone interviews, our home visits, a lot of our admin stuff virtual. So we have volunteers all over the world.
Wow, that's awesome.
England, Florida, California. So if you are not in Arizona and you want to volunteer with a rescue like us, there's absolutely areas you can help. So just you can go to our website. It's azdobrescue.org. You can find us on all the socials. Most of our handles are DHDR of AZ. And if you only have a little bit of a lift you can do right now, just follow us there, engage with our content. Like I said, so much of what we do is education. And so having more followers and likes and all the people sharing our stuff helps us achieve a part of our mission as well. We take money too.
Oh yeah, that.
That
It's
is helpful.
It is. It's funny because in our episode where we talk about Christy and I's definition of ethical rescue, we talk about all the things you can do to support. And one of those things is also making sure that the group that you are supporting is ethical and is following guidelines of rescue ethics and is on the up and up so that the money and the support and the funnels are all going to the right people. And I think that's really important for people to understand.
Yeah, it really is. And it's hard to know. There's so much noise out there every day, just in life. It's hard to know, but do your best.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Where can people find out about DHDR?
Like I said, social, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever your jam is, and our website. We have a pretty good website, lots of info on there, azdoberescue.org, or you can email me at contact@azdoberescue.org. I also answer a lot of our social DMs, so reach out in any way that you like.
And we'll link all that information in the show notes so that people know how to find you. I just really appreciate you being willing to come on and talk to us, not just about rescue, but ethical breeding too, and how it's all linked together, and about the challenges that are happening in dogs and Dobermans right now, because I think it's something that we should all be talking about.
Thank you. And I really appreciate your support just in doing this, but also always. Some days we find people who don't align with our beliefs, and those are the hard days. And then it's so helpful to get pumped up by cheerleaders who do support our same beliefs because it keeps us going. So Heather, you're definitely one of those people. And now I have another one in the mix, Christy. So I'm really grateful for you guys.
No, I appreciate it too, because I struggle sometimes finding groups that do align because I do walk both those sides of the path. So I really love being able to champion for you guys.
Thank you.
I think we're wrapped.
If you've enjoyed this episode, rate, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And check us out on Instagram at Sometimes There's Side Eye and engage with us.
Yes, we would love to hear from you. And if Dobermans are your breed, talk to us.
We'll talk to Christy Cole.
Well, yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. And we will be dropping new episodes every other Thursday. Bye.
Bye.
Guys.